Hey guys, VGamers and RV here, back with another video, and today we are back with some more Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. In the last episode, we finished off our final investigation sequence of the original Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney game. We are going on into our last day of trial for the SL9 incident and for Rise from the Ashes. I was about to just say the SL9 incident. This is not the SL9 incident. We are bringing up the SL9 incident as a connected incident to this one, which is, as we know, is true. Not to mention, we also figured out that Damon Gaunt has something over Lana, and Lana is apparently terrified of him and is willing to do anything he says, including move a body from the police department all the way to the prosecutor's office, and then stab that body with a different knife. Meaning that she did not kill Goodman. She did not kill Detective Goodman. We all knew that. We also knew from this logic who the real killer is, but today's trial is to prove that man guilty. This is the defendant lobby, alright, but there's no defendant. I've been trying to reach Lana all morning. Where could she be? And where's Emma, for that matter? It almost seems as if something's been happening. Who's saying that? Edgeworth! Oh! Knowing you've already figured it out. Who the owner of the 7777777 ID number is, that is. Well, I have a pretty strong hunch. Looks like I'm not the only one who's figured it out. You know, the only reason this trial didn't reach a verdict yesterday is because there was still room for doubt regarding this ID record. That number does belong to who you suspect, then no doubt will remain. After all, he hasn't been officially charged with anything. True, not yet. In any event, once all doubt has been removed from that list, I can call for a ruling. 5 minutes, Wright, and Chief Prosecutor Skye will be found guilty. But she didn't do it! I figured you'd say as much. That's why I came here, to hear what you have to say. This is the first time he's ever done something like this. Lana's hiding something, and the only way we'll ever know the truth is to draw it out of her. The truth. Everything goes back to the SL9 incident. Don't be stupid. Today is the last day of the trial. We don't have time to reminisce about the past. That depends on you. If she's found guilty, you'll lose your only chance to find out what really happened. I'll think about it. See you in court, Wright. Alright, Miles. You gotta help us out. This is it. If I'm ever going to find out what Chief Gaunt has on her, it's now. And if you're going to find that out, you're going to need Miles' help. Edgeworth's help. You're going to need that man's help if you're going to find out the truth behind this. So, let's see if he's willing to go all in here. Because we're already all in. Court is now in session for the trial of Miss Lana Scott. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor. Normally, this is when the prosecution puts forth its opening statement. Yeah, no, that's the same face. You guys can't see whatever face I'm making, but I made that exact face that Edgeworth is making. Or, I guess that Edgeworth would make. But before that, the police chief has a proposal to make. Chief Gaunt! So he's here in the flesh with a proposal to make. Morning, folks! How's everyone doing? Hey, Udgy! Been back to the pool yet? No, I've been drowning enough as it is in my work. Oh, that's a good one. Don't think I could top that. If you don't mind me asking, Chief, what exactly is this proposal of yours? Gaunt? Lana, that is to say, the defendant, has asked me if she could speak directly to the court. She wants to do what? Having heard what she intends to say, I feel she should be granted her request. In the end, it should save everyone a lot of time and trouble. Lana? What's this all about, defendant? I'd just like to make one simple request, and I'll be finished.
Well, what's your request?
Your Honor, I'd like you to put an immediate end to this trial. Huh? I confess to all charges against me. On February 21st of this year, I murdered Detective Bruce Goodman in the underground parking lot of the prosecutor's office. No, Lana!
Objection!
You can't! Your Honor, the defendant's claim does not change the defense's plea. In that case, Mr. Wright, I no longer require your services. But Lana! Your Honor, I hereby forfeit my right to an attorney. The prosecution may lack direct evidence against me, but it has sufficiently proven its case through testimony and circumstantial evidence. I would like you to render your verdict now, if you please.
Well, the defendant certainly has a right to self-representation. The request is legally valid, though this is an unprecedented situation.
So you gotta, come on!
Indeed, it appears there's no need to further continue this trial, even if Mr. Wright may feel otherwise.
This can't be happening!
It appears the time for a verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant...
Objection!
Miles Edgeworth! Thank goodness. One moment, Your Honor.
Mr. Edgeworth?
The prosecution has not yet proven the defendant guilty beyond reasonable doubt. Any ruling at this stage could certainly be premature. Come now, Worthy. I understand this is a difficult time for you, but why don't you just be a good little boy and keep your mouth shut? I don't think I care for your tone, Chief Gaunt. What? Creating another fabrication to cover up your past mistakes. Sorry, but I'm no longer the naive little boy you have me be. With this sudden confession from the defendant, it's obvious to me some kind of deal was struck behind the scenes. Some kind of deal, huh? Not everyone operates as you do, Worthy. I thought so. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to change its first witness. Oh? As its first witness, the prosecution would like to call Miss Emma Skye. I request the court hears her testimony. Mr. Edgeworth, I'm exercising my right to self-representation. I don't think we need to continue... I don't care what you think, Miss Skye. The exposure of truth sometimes results in tragedy. However, no matter how tragic the truth may be, it would be an even greater tragedy to avert one's eyes from it. I think he speaks from experience there. I'm certain that he speaks from experience there. Worthy, you'll live to regret this. Ooh, God, what are you saying? Miss Emma Skye, please take the stand. Looks like Edgeworth has decided to take the horse by the reins. Good for us, huh? Good for us. Now then, witness, please state your name and occupation. My name is Emma Skye. My occupation? I'm Lana's little sister, and I want to be a scientific investigator. 2 years ago, you encountered the serial killer Joe Dark of the Joe Dark killings. Is this correct? Yes. I'm trying my hardest to forget about that, though. I'm sorry, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to recall those events one more time.
Mr. Edgeworth, please remember this trial concerns the murder of Detective Goodman. Is an incident that was resolved 2 years ago really all that relevant?
Yes, it most certainly is.
Well, okay then.
He sure gave in fast. I mean, I assume that Miles was glaring bullets into his head, so sure. Now, please testify about what happened to you 2 years ago. The trip to yesteryear has finally begun. It's bound to lead to the truth behind this trial. Honestly, at this point, it kinda has to. Alright, let's listen to Emma's testimony here.
I was waiting in my sister's office that day. A man came running in and took me hostage. Neil Marshall rescued me, but I'll never forget what I saw in that instant. The man raised up his knife and stabbed Mr. Marshall in the chest.
It's a good thing you weren't harmed.
I passed out. I don't remember much.
That's understandable. However, please tell me, Mr. Edgeworth, what does this testimony have to do with Detective Goodman's murder? That will soon become apparent, Your Honor.
You've got to admire him for his courage, considering he has no evidence.
Very well, the defense may begin its cross-examination. Right, don't you do the same thing? You bluff and without evidence, and then you just search for something, and then, hey, ta-da, here's this case-breaking evidence / contradiction. That's exactly what Wright does all the time. Anyways, you have to press her on this fourth statement. Can you tell us about that?
Mr. Marshall jumped on Dart. Just then, the lights went out.
Lights?
It was just about this time of year. There was a terrible storm going on, and lightning struck nearby.
So the electricity went out? Wait a minute. If it was pitch dark in that room, you shouldn't have been able to see anything, right?
Right, but just then, lightning flashed again outside. That sudden flash left an unforgettable image of the scene in my mind.
I see.
I told the detective about what I saw then.
The detective?
Yes, Detective Goodman. He was in charge of the case.
Detective Bruce Goodman,
The victim.
hear more or stop? Hear more. Come on, Emma. So, you spoke with Detective Goodman about this 2 years ago.
Yes, that's what's so scary about this trial.
And you told Detective Goodman about what you saw.
Yes, but at the time, the words just wouldn't come out. That's why I drew a picture.
A picture?
Yes, I think she mentioned that before.
Well, Mr. Wright, have you heard enough? Let's ask about the picture. This picture the witness drew, I believe it has a very important meaning.
Objection!
Right? Or, not right, Edgeworth. But the list of evidence I was given 2 years ago didn't contain a picture. Witness, would you mind if we added this statement to your testimony? Excuse me.
Yes, Your Honor.
As in, you do mind or you don't mind?
I drew a picture of that scene once, but it seems to have been lost.
Not exactly. Not exactly. So I'm over in the court record right now. We're looking at the evidence list. You want to check it. Oops, my bad. So if we turn it around, like so, would you look at that? A picture is drawn on the back of the evidence list in magic marker. I've got a very bad feeling about this. I'm sure you do, right? But that's important to know. That picture that Emma's talking about is right there, and it's been there for years. Mr. Edgeworth, this little girl put all her heart into drawing that picture. And yet you would insist on denying its existence? Huh? Hey, I'm not the bad guy. All I'm saying is that as the prosecutor for that case, I wasn't handed such a picture. That may well be, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Behold! This is the evidence list for the SL9 incident. Please turn it over, Your Honor. Turn it over? Ah! What's this? Yes, what is that?
Hey! That's it! That's the picture I drew!
Indeed. Two men appear to be wrestling here.
Objection!
What's the meaning of this? What are you doing with that list? Me? Only the prosecutor in charge should have access to that list. Huh. These lists They're different from each other.
What?
It would appear, Mr. Edgeworth, that the evidence list you were handed 2 years ago was incomplete. These two lists fit together to form one. You can see the marks here where they were torn apart from each other.
So you see, Mr. Edgeworth, it's quite obvious what happened. 2 years ago, only half of the evidence in that case ever reached you. What? Yeah, unfortunately, yes.
Order! But, Miss Skye, why did you draw your picture on the back of such an important list?
Because that's what Detective Goodman handed me in the questioning room, Your Honor.
Wait a minute.
If this list was torn in half, then that means...
Your Honor! Are you alright, Mr. Wright? Your eyes are bulging from your head.
If the evidence list was torn in half, then there might be more of the drawing on the back of Mr. Edgeworth's list.
Yes, that's quite conceivable, Mr. Edgeworth. It's possible. Let's see. Is something wrong?
I think he found the other half of that drawing. Do you even have to ask it? I think he found the drawing. Miles?
Sorry, Your Honor.
There is indeed something drawn on the back of my list. It's that thing. Bum 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 ba ba bum ba ba bum 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 bum.
That's that thing. The thing that was dancing in the evidence room.
Clearly, this act of vandalism is the work of a certain chief of detectives. I guess he was out of scrap paper. Emma? You saying anything?
Very well. Witness, will you please testify about this picture you drew 2 years ago?
Huh? Yes, sir, Your Honor. What's wrong with Emma? She seemed to be thinking about something when she was looking at the picture. Well, can we look through the picture ourselves real quick? Let's look through the pictures ourselves. I'm gonna actually pull it up. So this is what the picture looks like when you connect the two pieces of evidence. What it was drawn like this. So whatever the hell that is, it sure as hell ain't the Blue Badger. Not if that was a scene. Anyways, we can't prove anything with that yet. So let's get out of here and let's go on to Emma's next testimony. Can't prove anything with that just yet. I'm also trying to actively fix my camera while I'm doing this. This is the picture I drew 2 years ago. The flash of lightning was so bright, all I could see were shadows. After that, I must have fainted. This picture shows precisely exactly what I saw in that instant.
To think a flash of lightning could burn such of an image in your mind.
Thanks to that, though, she was able to show us exactly what she saw.
Well, I don't see any contradictions here. This clearly shows Joe Dark about to murder prosecutor Nero Marshall. The defense may not be in its cross-examination.
Maybe it does, but let's continue on here. Hold on. Let's continue on. There is one thing we can actually object to this, actually. We need to present... Where's the autopsy? Yes, Neil's autopsy report. Stabbed in the back, died from a punctured heart and lung. Knife tip was in the wound. That doesn't exactly look like a man about to get stabbed in the back.
Objection!
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this picture the witness drew contains a blatant contradiction. What? But I remember like it was yesterday.
Mr. Wright, perhaps it would be faster if you simply pointed out this contradiction for us. What part of this picture contradicts the autopsy report?
Well, the picture doesn't really look like someone about to get stabbed in the back, but that's not the contradiction he wants pointed out here. What we have to point out is the tip of the knife right here. You have to actually get on the tip of the knife, so it's it's a small box. But you have to point out the tip of the knife that Joe Dark is holding on to.
The contradiction, of course, lies here. Take a look at the knife the man is holding. If you look closely, you can see that its tip is broken. Even I don't have to look closely to see that, Mr. Wright.
But Mr. Wright, look at the evidence. See the murder weapon? Its tip is broken too.
If I recall, the tip of the knife was found broken off in the victim's body.
It was a conclusive piece of evidence that proved Joe Dark was the murderer.
I'm afraid it's not so simple, Emma.
Objection!
Oh, Miles, and where, pray tell, could you possibly see a problem? It's obvious, really. The victim suffered a single stab wound to the back. If the victim was only stabbed once, then the murder weapon should not yet be broken. What is the meaning of this? Perhaps the knife was broken beforehand.
Objection!
Sorry, but I'm afraid that's not possible. The tip of the knife was found inside the victim's body. If it was broken beforehand, it couldn't possibly wind up there. That's right. But what does this mean? The tip of the knife was undeniably discovered within the victim's body. The only possible explanation is the witness's memory is mistaken.
Objection!
That's why I asked her so many times if she was sure she remembered correctly. I believe you were annoyed at the time, but she was sure she remembered correctly. But there's no other way to explain this inconsistency.
Objection!
Not so fast, Mr. Edgeworth. There is another explanation. Have you forgotten already about a little something called falsified evidence? You're treading on thin ice, Wright. All I'm saying is that this broken knife tip might be the piece of evidence that was forged. You can't deny the possibility. No. Ah! Order! 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 Are you saying the investigation really was corrupted? Your Honor, please allow me once again to go over the events that took place the day of the murder. The police department and the prosecutor's office were holding a ceremony that day. After receiving the King of Prosecutors Award at the ceremony, Neil Marshall questioned Joe Dark along with Damon Gaunt. During his questioning, Joe Dark fled the room. Prosecutor Marshall chased after him and was killed by Dark. It's my belief that somewhere in this story, there is a lie.
I'm not lying. The man really was holding up a broken knife.
If that's true, then there's no other way around it. This could not have been the actual murder weapon. There must have been another broken knife. What are the chances of there being two broken knives? Another broken knife besides Joe Dark's? Could there have been one? Emma's mistaken, or there is another one. There is another one. If the witness is this adamant about the accuracy of what she saw, it can't just be explained away by a simple observational error.
Mr. Wright.
In that instant, Emma really did see a broken knife. I assume, then, that you have some information about this other broken knife? If so, please feel free to enlighten us. The murder weapon was already broken prior to the murder. There's only one way. Take a look at this. Here's the real murder weapon. You have to present the Gaunt team picture. The answer lies in the past. 2 years in the past. Right here inside this picture. This is a picture of the award ceremony. What is it, Mr. Edgeworth? It's the broken murder weapon. Notice the award Prosecutor Marshall is holding.
That's a broken knife.
As we earlier concluded, the knife in the drawing was not Joe Dark's knife. That being the case, the knife the witness saw was in all likelihood from this award. Order! 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 Neil Marshall was awarded the King of Prosecutors that day. As an award, he was given this broken shield and knife. When he chased after Joe Dark, he pulled out this knife. Being a prosecutor, he did not carry a pistol. This broken knife was the only weapon he had in this dangerous situation. But that can't be. Oh? And why not, Mr. Edgeworth? Because if the King of Prosecutors' award knife was the murder weapon, then the murder and the victim would be reversed. What do you mean? I mean, this man raising a knife would have to have been Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Oh! Yeah. But the prosecutor was the one who actually died. That's true. What's going on here? It seems Mr. Wright has been a bit too eager to jump to conclusions.
Hold it! Wait! I remember now! I remember everything!
Witness?
Mr. Edgeworth!
What is it?
Could you show me your evidence list again, please?
Is this the one with that picture scribbled on the back?
I knew it! This picture. I'm the one who drew it.
What? You drew that?
That's right. The list wasn't torn in half at the time I drew this picture. All this time I've been trying so hard to forget. I must have locked this part deep inside of me.
Perhaps it would be best if we added this to the witness testimony. Would you please tell us what you recalled, Miss Skye?
Yes, Your Honor.
First the knife mix-up and now the blue badger? This should be interesting.
Alright, Emma. When I saw that man raise his knife, I panicked and rushed toward the both of them. I think I knocked away the man with the knife. Just then, there was another flash of lightning, and that's when I saw the blue badger. He wasn't in the room, but I'm sure I saw his shadow.
This is certainly most unusual.
Objection!
Try impossible. The chief of detectives hadn't even designed him until this year. That would mean he didn't even exist 2 years ago. Yes, well, the defense may not be...
Stop! Please! Don't pursue this any further.
Lana! What's the meaning of this? Please remain seated in the defendant's chair.
But you can't do this. I've already confessed to the crime. Why can't you leave it at that?
Chief Prosecutor Skye. We've already come this far. It's too late to turn back. Silence! The defense will now begin its cross-examination. Bailiff, please detain the defendant. It seems we're finally getting to the core of the matter. Whatever the truth about around this is, Lana already knows. So we just gotta figure it out now. There is... Which one do we need to press? I think we need to press this one. His shadow? So you mean you did actually see his face with the winning smile and all?
That's right, but I still remember it. He had 3 creepy horns.
Objection!
This is pointless. That thing couldn't have possibly existed 2 years ago. The witness must be mistaken.
Objection!
That may well be. But what's important is what caused her to think she saw what she did. Oh, then I suppose you have an explanation. If so, then by all means, please tell us what the shadow really was. What was it Emma saw when that lightning flashed? Who is this blue badger, really? I just might know. The blue badger hadn't even been dreamt of when Emma saw this picture. Yet she's certain she saw its shadow. Ladies and gentlemen, It is the defense's belief that on that fateful day 2 years ago, there indeed was something that looked similar to the Blue Badger. Something that is now sitting in this very room.
Mr. Wright!
In this room? Very well, Mr. Wright. What is it that the witness saw in that instant? Please show us his mysterious Blue Badger look-alike. Where is it? Where is it? There it is! Unstable jar! The mysterious Blue Badger was in fact this! But that's... what exactly is that? I believe it is some sort of jar.
But Mr. Wright, that doesn't look anything like the Blue Badger.
Indeed it doesn't. As it stands now, it's just a plain jar. However, what if we were to change our viewpoint? Our viewpoint? I've got to show them the correct angle to look at this from. Alright, so now we're on the bottom screen. We're playing around with angles. You can use the up and down buttons, the left and right buttons to play around with the angles all you want. What you really want to do is move it down. Come on. Okay, there we go. God, I hate this. There, like that. Wait, how do I get it to... there we go. Okay, I need to actually press this button. Alright, so you want, first of all, to get it like this. Sort of standing upright. And then you just kind of turn it like this. Kind of looks like the Blue Badger, doesn't it? If you, like, black it all out. Present that. This isn't right. I gotta make it look more like the Badger. Damn it, what are you talking about? I had the right angle. Do I need to rotate it more? I might need to rotate it more. Okay, if I rotate it more, I'll rotate it more. How much do I need to rotate it? My God. Like this? Okay, I need to rotate it so much. Oh my God. Well, is this a miracle or what? No one can possibly deny this jar's resemblance to the Blue Badger. No, it can't be. Okay, so I just needed to push it up further a bit more, but like, it looks like the Blue Badger. Order! Order! The defense has proven its claim. The mysterious Blue Badger witness on the day of the crime was actually this.
Objection!
Although we all enjoyed Mr. Wright's dramatic performance, one question remains. What's your point? What do you mean? So that Badger thing was actually just a jar. That doesn't change anything.
Objection!
I'm afraid that's where you're wrong, Mr. Edgeworth. You see, this changes everything. Indeed. Very well then. Please tell us, what's different now that we know the witness saw this jar? The location, the murder weapon, or the murderer? Right now, if you think about it, just think about it for a second. It doesn't really... Our options are location, the murder weapon, and the murderer. All three of those have been changed. All three of those details in this scenario have been changed. The murder weapon has obviously been changed. We know that already. The murder weapon was was likely, I should say, the sword from the King of Prosecutors trophy, or at least that is what the defense is claiming. The murderer has also kind of been changed, and we'll get to that in just a bit, I'm sure. The location has also been changed, and we'll get to that right now, because I'm going to select the location, but honestly, it doesn't matter what you select from that menu, because all three of those have been changed, and we're going to go through all of them. Allow me to take these in turn. At the moment of the murder, the witness saw this jar. At a very specific angle, I might add, Mr. Wright. Yes, well, knowing this, where could she have seen the jar? Where? The location of the jar is shown in a picture taken on the day of the crime. It's on a shelf in the office of Damon Gaunt.
Objection!
But the body was found lying near Lana Sky's desk. The witness testified so herself.
Objection!
And it's these two facts that reveal what really transpired. You see, the struggle between Dark and Marshall did not take place in Lana Sky's office. It happened on the other side of the room, in Chief Gott's office. Are you implying that the murderer moved the victim's body from Damon Gaunt's office to Lana Sky's office? Yes. Why would he do that? There's no reason. Exactly. If there wasn't a reason, he wouldn't have gone through with the trouble. The only logical conclusion is that there was a reason. Do you know what that reason was, Mr. Wright? I finally figured it out. So this is why Lana tried to stop the trial. It's too late to quit now, though. Please recall the witness's testimony. She said that she knocked away the man who was holding up the knife. In the next instant, the jar was hit and flew through the air. Now tell me, what could have sent the jar flying? That would have to have been the impact the man made when he was knocked into the wall. Ladies and gentlemen, if I may draw your attention to this picture once more. If the man was knocked in the direction of the shelf the jar was sitting on, what would he have hit? The suit of armor, holding a very sharp and dangerous-looking sword. Yes. And since the man who was knocked into the armor was carrying a broken knife, he would have had to have been Neil Marshall, wielding the King of Prosecutors trophy. No, Mr. Wright, you can't be thinking. Yes, there is another possibility of what actually transpired in that room. Another possibility? Of course, her perpetrator would have had no idea, but nevertheless, I don't know if I can go through with this. Mr. Wright, what's the matter? If the events took place as the defense theorizes, then the outcome is obvious. In that moment, assuming the man Emma Sky knocked away was actually Prosecutor Neil Marshall,
You mean Mr. Marshall died because of me?
that is the conclusion. Emma? I never imagined her testimony would lead to this. So it was the witness who took the victim's life, and then proved so with her own testimony. This is unprecedented.
What are you saying?
I'm sorry, Miss Sky, but given the circumstances,
Joe Dark murdered Prosecutor Marshall. How can you think it was Emma? How dare you try to pin the crime on her?
imagine that coming from you. If you recall, it was you who admitted to forging evidence 2 years ago. The reason you moved Prosecutor Marshall's body was to keep anyone else from finding out about what Emma did, wasn't it?
I assure you, Mr. Edgeworth, I have no idea what you're talking about. If you hope to have anyone believe your insane allegations, I'm afraid you're going to have proof. Tell me, do you have any conclusive evidence that proves my sister killed Neil Marshall?
Evidence?
I'm willing to bet you don't.
Yes, it certainly would be difficult to prove this with evidence. If we don't have evidence, then we'll have to rely on testimony.
I'm afraid that won't work in this case. Both parties involved in the incident are dead.
We certainly can't get dead people to testify.
I mean, you could! You kinda... Granted, Maya's off in training right now, but like, if you just call Maya back and get her here and...
Spirit mediums. This has all been a wild goose chase from the beginning. Has it, though? Touché, Miss Sky. Of course, that only leaves us with one possibility. You mean there's still another possibility? What do you mean, Mr. Edgeworth? I mean the possibility that the victim has left us a message. For better or for worse, Mr. Marshall did not die instantly. He may have left behind the name of the person who took his life, in one manner or another.
That's impossible.
Well, Mr. Wright, this is the only possibility left to you. A message from the deceased. Does such a message exist?
I've got to think back to the court record. The real murderer's name that the victim may have left behind is in the evidence or doesn't exist.
It's in the evidence. It's in there.
This message from the deceased is already in our possession. Mr. Wright, will you stop at nothing to prove my sister a murderer?
Do not be mistaken, Miss Sky. Our purpose is not to accuse Emma of any crime. There is only one thing we seek. The truth. No matter how painful it may be. Now then, Mr. Wright, please show us the piece of evidence that conveys a message from the deceased.
Where's the jar? Unstable jar. This is the message left behind by the deceased.
This is that blue badger from before, right?
Oh, is he just going to speak the killer's name?
If that thing could, I'm sure it would. Looks like everyone's forgotten this is just a jar.
A message was left here, on the surface of this jar.
What do you mean?
If you look closely, you can see a faint trail of blood on this jar.
It looks like someone wiped the blood away.
Yes, but notice, for some reason, the blood on some of the fragments was not wiped away.
Yes, there was a line here, drawn in blood.
So what you're saying is these dots were once lines. Prosecutor Marshall did not die instantly. He used the few precious moments left to him to leave behind a message.
One that someone apparently wiped away.
The blood must have seeped into the jar where the lines changed directions. Precisely so. All we need to do is connect these points, and the victim's message will become apparent. No.
Mr. Wright, what kind of message did the victim leave for us?
Your Honor, I believe these bloodstains will reveal to us the answer. I've got to connect these dots to make letters. There's only one thing the victim would have written, given the circumstances. His murderer's name! So, on the bottom screen, you are actually supposed to connect all the dots yourself. I really cannot find my stylus anywhere, can I? My goodness. Okay, well, I guess I'm just gonna do this with my finger then. Well, oh well, that's fine. Hopefully y'all can see what I'm writing. Hello? There we go. But yeah, it has a sort of weird system when it comes to connecting the lines. I don't know if you guys can kind of see it. You have to tap on the dot, and then tap it, the other dot, and boom, line. But it's not really a weird system, I guess, but you guys know what we have to spell out. We have to spell out Emma's, unfortunately, we do have to spell out Emma's name. So that goes from there, and then, come on, cooperate with me, please. Oh my god, I really have to do this part one by one? Can I not? Oh my god, I have to do this one by one. Oh my god. That sucks. Anyways, Emma! It's a defense attorney's duty to prove their client's innocence. That's why all I've been thinking about is saving Lana. After all my efforts, I never thought it would turn out like this. Emma.
So this is the final message Prosecutor Neil Marshall left behind.
Unfortunately so. Meaning he knew who killed him.
Of all people, she may have not have meant it, but in the end, the one who took the victim's life was Emma Sky. And that... Seaworthy! Can't say I didn't warn you. Gaunt. Chief Gaunt. Do you understand the implications of what you've done? What are you talking about? 2 years ago, Joe Dark was sentenced to death. He was convicted because of his final murder. I believe you were the prosecutor in the case, were you not? Yes, Worthy. Because of you, an innocent man was sentenced to death. Not only that, but you used forged evidence to ensure his conviction.
Objection!
But Joe Dark really was a serial murderer. That's undeniable. Yeah, he wasn't truly innocent. I'm afraid that's not important. Didn't you know we aren't defenders of justice? What? We're merely keepers of the law. Sentencing a man to death is no light matter. Even if there weren't any cover-up or evidence forgery, ultimately the responsibility falls on the prosecutor in charge. Despite what anyone may say, this fact cannot be denied. Again, it's true that he wasn't completely innocent. Joe Dark wasn't completely innocent, I should say. But the fact remains is that he was declared guilty of murdering Neil Marshall and was sentenced to death based off of that verdict. And now we're figuring out that he didn't kill Neil Marshall, and the evidence used in that trial was forged. The gavel's pounding fell on deaf ears. Unable to settle the crowd, the judge declared a recess. Where this trial is heading, no one knows. Well, that, unfortunately, is the end of this episode. That is where this episode ends. A lot just went down in those last 5 minutes. But that is all for this episode. So I hope you guys have enjoyed. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye!